This is TechCrunch.
Sierra Space's spaceplane faces a reinvention after their NASA contract changed. I'm Imran Sheikh, and your Saturday Daily Crunch starts right now. In its latest bid to boost semiconductor production in the U.S., the Trump administration is reportedly considering a ratio-based approach that would penalize domestic manufacturers with tariffs if they don't produce enough chips. The administration is weighing a policy that would mandate U.S. semiconductor companies to manufacture the same number of chips in the U.S. as their customers import from overseas manufacturers, the Wall Street Journal reported, citing anonymous sources. Companies that don't comply with this one-to-one ratio will be subject to tariffs, the report said, though the timeline to achieve this ratio isn't clear. President Donald Trump, has been talking about imposing tariffs on the semiconductor industry since the beginning of August. Maybe a semiconductor week is on the horizon. Flipkart is in the advanced stages of securing regulatory approvals to shift its headquarters from Singapore to India, with the transition targeted for later this year, TechCrunch has learned, as the Walmart-owned e-commerce giant prepares for an Indian IPO next year. The re-domiciling process has received in-principle approvals from a Singapore court, while several hearings have already taken place at India's National Company Law Appellate Tribunal. People familiar with the matter told TechCrunch. Flipkart is working toward completing the transition within the next couple of months, aligning with India's festive season, a critical sales period, and laying the groundwork for a public listing expected as early as 2026. Flipkart initiated the process in India and Singapore simultaneously over 2.5 months ago, following the board's approval for the relocation of its headquarters in April. Now, when Sierra Space won a contract to deliver cargo to the International Space Station nearly a decade ago, the company promised a first for the commercial space market, a privately built, rapid reuse and cargo return spaceplane capable of landing on commercial runways. Well, that dream has changed. In a modification to the contract announced earlier this week, NASA and Sierra Space agreed to remove the agency's guarantee to purchase cargo flights to the ISS. Instead, the Dream Chaser spaceplane will debut in a free-flying demonstration in late 2026 and will not dock with the station. NASA said it'll provide minimal support for that test and only afterward decide whether to order ISS resupply missions at all. The contract change is a blow to the Dream Chaser program. Typically, such programs rely heavily, if not entirely, on government support, as the upfront development costs for a crewed or cargo spacecraft are so high that commercial customers are rarely able to provide enough demand to close the business case. With that guaranteed income gone, Sierra Space now faces the challenge of repositioning itself as a dual-use platform useful to commercial space stations or defense customers. Either way, time is running out. The ISS is slated for deorbit around 2030, which leaves Dream Chaser just a few short years to demonstrate cargo delivery in orbit. And we've got one quick startup story for you. A wider leadership shakeup at Hyundai's electric air taxi startup Supernal is underway just a few weeks after it paused work on its vehicle program and its CEO and CTO left, TechCrunch has learned. Supernal's chief strategy officer and chief safety officer are no longer with the company, the startup confirmed Friday. The chief of staff to Supernal's recently departed CEO is also out. Now, it's been a tough year for Supernal. The startup ended 2024 by abruptly winding down its new headquarters in Washington, D.C., as TechCrunch previously reported. While Supernal finally pulled off its first test flight in March, it laid off dozens of employees just a few months later. By early September, the startup began an executive shakeup and paused the air taxi program. And that's your Daily Crunch. Today's stories were reported by Jagmeet Singh and more awesome TechCrunch journalists. We'll see you here next week, and until then, find us at TechCrunch.com.